Just to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. Today we are going to be talking Kansas City Chiefs. Game is on Monday Night Football, prime time, which means we will be playing the Chiefs and the officials.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. Monday night, we don't get to see our team in prime time very often this year.
No, and like the Chiefs' prime time is about as prime time as it gets, especially these days. No word yet on whether Taylor's going to be at the game. She usually shows up for these primetime games, gets to do a little walk-in, and it's on national TV. I don't know. I don't really care, but it just kind of like ups the atmosphere of the whole place, the national focus, if you will. But, we're going to go through our picks in a second, but with this national focus, there's also a lot of focus on the freaking Dead Sea Scroll of an injury list that we got yesterday. We're recording this on Friday before the game. I think we'll see what happens. You could kind of make the argument that last week's injury list at this time looked worse, but this time your backup center apparently is not playing.
He's not officially out yet.
Yeah, he's not out. He did not practice, but that's the biggest concern. So it's like, how do we go in with these injuries? Can we finally see Clint scheme something up to make adjustments, even if Taysom doesn't play? Can he get the ball to different guys besides like using three people and only three people besides the quarterback?
I like the Dead Sea Scroll analogy. I would have gone with CVS receipt.
The CVS receipt. I mean, people
same thing, I guess.
Use that,
Yeah, Nick, you want to hit us up with the injury report?
It's extensive. So we know McCoy's out, right? That's an IR thing, not injury report, but just be aware. We know Willie Gay broke his hand during the last game, so he was practice. Taysom with the ribs. We all saw him leave early, which heavily impacted last week. I don't know. I would assume he's out with, I guess.
Everything I've heard makes it seem like he's going to be out.
So Ruiz, we believe's out as well.
Yeah,
still.
We've heard several weeks on that.
That'll be his second game in a row out. We just talked about Lemieux. We're hoping he can still play. He hasn't been ruled out. Peyton Turner hit the report, which is, par for the course for his career. And Groupie hit the report.
How did that happen?
I assume he's going to play. It says right hip, which is kicking leg. I'm assuming he's just sore or something, flared up. But
that's something to watch, though.
Yeah, I mean,
he's perfect on the year, I believe.
Whenever I go out and kick field goals, that usually is the first thing to
after
get sore.
One field goal. Yeah.
At least three.
Corey's out. Limited practice, DeMario, Fuaga, Kamara, the whole team. Kamara, AT, Jawan, Brian Brzee, Kendre, which, hey, we think he's going to play, which is...
Well, I saw Underhill said he was like, you know what, my gut tells me a week or two before they roll him in.
Really?
It's funny that I was listening to Triplet on... he was being interviewed on ESPN by Matt Moscona, and he was saying, it sounds like they wouldn't even be surprised. Triplet said, I wouldn't even be surprised if he's not active for this game. I think that's a stretch, but my gut, even before I heard all those guys talking, was that, just Saints fans get ready for the frustration that comes in when the second guy to get a carry is Jamal Williams and not Kendre Miller. Where, like, Jamal Williams is your primary backup in this game, not Kendre Miller. I mean, I could just see that happening. Just per our history, etc. But the hope is obviously that he's rested.
Roster.
I think he's gonna be on the active roster, but I mean, like, the hope is that he's rested enough from his injury where he's truly ready to assume that, like, second back. But I would not be surprised if they're like, first game back, big opponent, roll with Jamal, kind of ease Kendre in there.
Ease your way out of the season quickly.
That's what it would seem to be doing. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
I feel like he's going to wait till week 17 or 18, and then he's going to decide to play. And we'll get like one or two games, and we'll go, oh, hey, he's good.
Get the yearly Kendre game just to keep us on.
Running back is one of the top needs next year, right alongside offensive line, tight end, another wide receiver,
Yeah.
pass
Offense.
rusher. God, it's awful.
Yeah, it is. So what do you think? We should get into these picks?
Yeah, why don't you kick us off? What you got?
Okay. All right. So I think the way the Chiefs have been playing, I do think it's a decent matchup. And but it is still the Chiefs. You can't really make mistakes. But I think everyone's been bemoaning the fact that we're ranked so high in these lists and we're still 2-2. I get the feeling that it's something has to give at some point, and I'm going out on a limb and predicting a Saints victory in this one. Things are typically low scoring, especially with the Chiefs, and especially if Taysom's going to be out for us. So I'm going to go with a 20-17 Saints victory. And my offensive MVP in this one is I'm going back to the well. I'm going to say it's Chris Olave. Especially if Taysom's out, the hope is that we work him into the game plan more, or just pepper him with targets. Find a weakness in their secondary. They're strong up front. Obviously, if our centers and guards can't protect, then we're gonna have a hard time, especially with that defensive line. But I think he gets his. As far as defensive MVP, he's not on the injury list this week. He's going back to his old team. Give me Honey Badger.
You stole my pick. I'm going with him too. So
I
want to
think
give a yardage or touchdowns to Olave or just Olave?
Oh yeah, no, I said 100 last week. I don't know that he cracks the century mark. Let's go with 90 receiving yards, but he's going to have the same or more 8 receptions and at least a touchdown.
Okay.
We have 1 touchdown.
What's Honey Badger do?
And then with Honey Badger, he's gonna keep the INT train rolling, and he's gonna his nose is gonna be in there. I'm gonna say either an INT or a fumble recovery. Like he's just gonna be around the ball, and then give me about like 7 tackles for him.
Okay. I guess I'm going next.
yeah, go for it.
I like a lot of the way Corey's thinking about the game. I would have picked the Saints hands down had we gone into this a little bit healthier. I've watched the better part of 3 of the Chiefs games. I feel, quite honestly, the officials gave them 2 of them. And, that happens in the NFL. They just happen to come up on the right side of it both times.
Yeah.
Huge call in Atlanta where Pitts got tackled in the end zone for a go-ahead touchdown. Clear PI not called. And then they got 4th and 15, 4th and 16 the game prior against the Bengals. And he overthrows a guy by 5 yards, and the DB coming up for an interception bumps his helmet and making a play on the ball, and it's called PI. They kick a game-winning field goal.
Yes.
I think both those games, I'm not saying that's not a PI. If you're calling it crazy tight, the guy did make contact. To me, he was going for the pick and kind of went through the player a little bit. Very minor foul for especially a ball 5 yards over the dude's head. No chance to catch that ball. And then to get the Pitts call not called in back-to-back weeks is just that's luck.
Yeah.
And we call it what it is. They beat Baltimore, which, maybe catching them week 1 looks like a fortunate break for them, the way Baltimore's rolling now. And then last week you had the Chargers. They only scored 17 points in the Chargers, which is a very good defense this year. But 10-10 game, Justin Herbert on the 2-yard line. They go for it on 4th down. He throws it out the back of the end zone. I don't know. Maybe forgot what down it was. Just things seem to be falling their way, and I'm not saying they're not earning it. You have Pat Mahomes, and if you give him a chance to get a drive, you got to think he's going to get it. So if that game's tight at the end, I think we're in bad shape. What I'd say about them is they're not a really good team. They're ranked outside the top 15 in yardage for offense and defense. Their defense, much like ours, is giving up yardage but keeping the points down. But the offense isn't really scoring. I think they're averaging 22 a game, which is okay, but it's not great. Travis Kelce looks to be done. He's been awful this year. If we're being honest, it's kind of like we didn't think Cam would be this irrelevant for our team this year that quickly. Right. Kelsey was not a focus of the offense at all the first 4 weeks, if you've watched the games. I don't know if it's him, scheme change. Then they lose Rasheed last week, who was the focus of the offense and the dominant player in the pass game for them. He's gone. I have to think they're going to struggle in the passing game with this. Then you look at their run game. Pacheco's out. They just benched Steele. Kareem Hunt came in, had a pretty good game last week, but he's banged up too. So they're coming in a very similar situation on offense as we are. I expect it to be low scoring, like Corey said. I think offensively for us, it all comes down to the pass game. They're been a very good run team this year. I think they're allowing less than 100 yards a game. That is in the top 10 in the league. Yeah. I think we're going to have to get it in the pass game, which means you bring in Chris Jones into the equation against our depleted interior line. So that's not a great situation for Carr in the pass game. But if we're to win this game, I think that's where it comes from. I think this is going to be tougher sledding for AK and without Taysom, our run game, which has been great, might have a more difficult time against this team. I'm going to say it's 2017 the other way. I'm going to say we're in a really tight game, and we give Mahomes the ball, and he beats us. I would say the exact opposite if we had our offensive line. I think this is going to be – this would have been our announcement game, potentially. Yeah. Even with the 2 previous losses, if we came in healthy, I think this would have been Monday Night Football. The Saints are for real. Yeah. And I hope it still is, because I think it's going to come down to 1 or 2 plays again, and hopefully we come out on the right side of it, unlike the previous 2 weeks. Sure. So I'll go Chiefs 20-17. With that in mind, it's on Carr. I think we're in trouble, so I'm going to stick with Carr. Not that it's going to be amazing stats, but I'll say 202.
Specific number there.
Yeah. No, 202 touchdowns. 200 yards, 2 touchdowns.
They're going 202 yards.
But completing passes, getting first down, managing the offense well, no turnovers. I just think he's going to be, if we're to win, he has to be the MVP of this game. Yeah. Defensively, I was going to pick Honey Badger too, so I'm just going to pivot. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with a Debo redemption game. Because after that game, they're going to be coming after Debo. There's no doubt. Yeah. They don't have a receiver who's going to beat Lattimore. Whoever he's on, they're just not going to throw it there. You're going to have a Debo trying to chase another fast receiver, most likely, and Worthy. I would have picked Honey Badger because I would feel like the Chiefs are going to scheme through Kelsey finally without Rice. But since Corey, you went first, I'm going to let you have it. I'm going to go with Debo. I don't think the tackles matter much, but I'll say 6 tackles and a couple pass breakups. But being solid, not giving up big plays. How about no PIs? That's what we'll put
That'd
down.
be huge. that would be more impressive than an interception.
0 penalties for Debo this game. Him bouncing back, because that was pretty rough last week. Okay, what you got?
I'm kind of going with a hybrid pick situation of you two. I do think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a close game. I do think that the Chiefs are going to pull it out at the end. I think it's going to be a situation where we're up in the final 2 minutes. Mahomes gets the ball with a little too much time on the clock. There might be some shenanigans involved, whether it's the officiating or whether it's, someone doing the Adebo or the Jordan Howden. But something, I'm going to say the officiating gets in. There's going to be a questionable call, whether it's like a late hit, on Mahomes or something like that gets them a first down and puts them in field goal range, and they hit the game-winning field goal. I'm going to say 21-20, Chiefs. Offensive MVP, you really don't have many options. When you look at our offense, it's either Kamara, Olave, or Carr. There's really nobody else I think that's going to play a factor. I guess Shaheed.
If he takes the top off twice, he's the MVP.
We have utilized all of 4 skill players. So.
Yeah. But right now, Shaheed's like a distant 4 on that list of possible MVPs just from how he's performed the last few weeks. You know, I do like the scenario of a possible Shaheed redemption arc this week where maybe there's a punt or kick return for a touchdown. Maybe there's a long reception. You know, you got to think he's going to bounce back one of these days. But that being said, I'm going with Olave. Olave's been on fire the last 2 weeks. Honestly, this whole season he's been good. But the last 2 weeks, I feel like he's made every clutch catch.
He's stepped up big time.
He's stepped up. Every time they've gone to him in a pressure situation, he's made the play this year. So I think he keeps that going. I'm going to go
tackle on the sideline. That was rough to watch.
Yeah. I do think he's going to have over 100 yards. I'm going to go with, let's go very specific.
Okay.
Let's go with 111 yards.
111.
111.
All right.
We're going to go with a touchdown. Defensively, I mean, you got to say the Honey Badger. It's the perfect storybook return to his former team where he won Super Bowls. I'm going to say the Honey Badger gets an interception and, 8 tackles.
Okay.
So I'm going very specific with the predictions this week. But I do think it's a close game. As Nick said, if the offensive line wasn't a MASH unit right now, I would say the Saints, this would have been the Saints coming out party on national TV where everyone the next day would just be raving about the Saints and saying this is the best team in the NFC.
It almost makes you wonder, would you have traded like a Cowboys loss if we stayed healthy so that we could have that type of game
Absolutely.
against the Chiefs?
Yeah.
Because
if you trade a Cowboys loss and we're healthy at this point, that means we're healthy the last 2 weeks, which means we probably win.
Yeah.
This team is literally 1 or 2 2 or 3 plays away from being 4-0 right now. So that's the frustrating thing, even with all the injuries.
That's kind of my thought of the predicting the win. It's just like we're just pushing on. Historically, we couldn't say about ourselves last year or even the year before that, man, we're at the top of so many categories. Like we're clearly getting the yards in the right spots. We're making the right play calls for once on offense. We're making the right defensive play calls, but we're not. But our record doesn't show for it. The past couple of years, it's been like our record looks to be perfectly what it should be based on the lack of offensive production, the lack of good play calling, mistakes here and there. But it's like when we talk about other teams in the NFL and we say, or the experts always look at, look at this team they're at the top of all these categories. They just haven't quite pushed through yet.
Right.
Expect for them to do it, and they usually do. So the signs are there. The statistical evidence is there. We've passed the eye test at different points in the season. It's just it's not make or break, but I just think they gotta push through at some point.
You feel like they deserve more.
It might not be this game, but it just seems like it's got to happen.
We should be 3-1.
At the least.
We had a chance to win the Eagles game, but if we're being honest with ourselves, they outplayed us.
We got kicked in the teeth on that one.
Right.
Yeah.
We bounced back. We clearly outplayed Atlanta, except for the couple mistakes. So should be a 3-1 team, feeling great. And now you're looking at the Chiefs at 2-2, potentially being 2-3 because they're the 2-time reigning Super Bowl champs. And you feel like you didn't get what you put out there. That's how I feel. I don't feel cars melted down. I don't feel like anything's gone backwards. I think you have to believe we've outplayed our record by a lot, and now you got to go to the Chiefs.
That's one of the reasons I hate hearing Max's point, but I even said it as a possibility last episode that just if you give Mahomes too much time on the clock at the end, it typically does not bode well for your team,
especially prime time against the Chiefs.
And I would just hate that because a it's so realistic, but b it would be the 3rd week in a row.
Yeah,
where you've put yourself in a position to win and your defense doesn't hold, and then you saw a few Fire Dennis Allen hashtags coming through last week. When it's his baby, that is the reason you're not closing out the games. Those are really going to start to come back. I'm not saying they're deserved necessarily yet, but that's
also
gonna
like to see the offense keep putting games away that the defense gives them the opportunity to put away. I mean, Atlanta should not have been,
get the game in a position where it's not on the defense at the end.
Right.
Yeah. And another thing is we talked about it on the last episode. this 3-game stretch, because it's 3 games over less than 14 days, this 2 of the 3 you have to win. And we all were unanimous in saying that the Buccaneers game is the one that you absolutely have to win.
Yes.
Out of those 3.
I think so.
We got a little help.
Them losing
but-
last night helps that a little.
But you still got to win it.
Because now we just have to beat Atlanta 100%,
Right.
where it could have been a rough road for them.
But
you got to win 2 out of 3.
Yeah, you have to do 2 out of 3. And honestly, I talked about it last week or the other day. I really think that Broncos game, just from an emotional, mental state of the city standpoint, you have to win that one too. Because if Peyton comes in here and walks all over DA, that the fire Dennis Allen hashtag is going to be out in full force. Like
We're gonna
those
want him
t-shirts,
gone.
Well, it should be.
it should be at that point. So
It's a Thursday night game. We're going to want him gone before the weekend.
right, but the thing is, it's like the Chiefs at Kansas City, Monday Night Football. I mean, that is not one that any Saints fan before the season would have predicted as a win for us. They just wouldn't have. You know what I mean? We had no
we
indication
also
that this team was going to be good.
Talk real quick about, once again, the most ridiculous schedule.
You had 3 games in 14 days.
Okay, we're going to let you go to Chiefs.
Yeah.
Then you get your last year's, division champ. Very important game every year for sure. On the short week after they get a long week, then we're going to short week you against your ex-coach 4 days later. Like, that's insane to me.
It is.
I don't know how you can fix that, but to put that Bucs game between those games, especially,
Yeah.
is
crazy.
crappy. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
No, that's the best way to put it. It's bullshit. And it
Yeah.
happens every year. There is somehow a 3-game stretch over less than 14 days. It's usually around Thanksgiving time and normally involves
Well,
the
last year was
Falcons.
going to L.A. on a short week.
Yeah.
Going across the country on a short week. Like,
Yeah. You could just tell they had no chance in that game.
Yeah.
you knew it. And it's the only game we lost out of the last 6. So,
Yeah.
right? We're 5-1?
Yeah.
So, it changed the whole season because we clearly weren't up for that game in the first half.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You got to play the schedule. But when I saw that come out, we talked about it before.
Oh, you and I were on
it's
like that is an absolute loss. And you were at the game, so.
Super Bowl champ, division champ, ex-coach. Back-to-back 14 days. Tell me how that makes any sense.
Yeah, and look, I do think we have a really good chance of winning on Monday night. Like, it would not surprise me in the least if we go in there and win, because to Nick's point, that Chiefs team is not the juggernaut that everybody thinks, or everybody would lead you to believe that they are.
Yeah.
Like, Mahomes has been normal. He's second in the league in interceptions right now.
He's got 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He hasn't been good.
He hasn't been good. I mean, and look, he hasn't thrown for 3 touchdowns in like a season and a half or something.
Yeah,
It's
no, if
crazy.
you go back to last year, I mean, they talked about last year's team. It was very much more of a defensive team by Chiefs standards, because like they were averaging, I think, like 21, 22 points in all of their victories last year.
Yeah.
The thing with the Chiefs,
Same issue.
Mahomes has been pedestrian, but he still has the ability.
Oh, if you give him a chance,
The
he's
last
over.
the
So
last
it's
2
like-
minutes, he's
like,
the most
don't-
dangerous player in
right,
the
so
league.
like, let's just don't give him the chance to be the vintage variety of
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, which brings me to my closing thought on this whole thing. The big debate after last game was people wanted to say it's coaching and this is not a good coach team. That's why you're in a position to lose. It's on the players, right? Like, the players have to execute, especially in this game. Like Deuce said after the game on Fox last week, you got to play clean football. This has to be a well-executed game. If the players don't do their jobs or commit too many big mistakes, then we won't have a chance. They have to execute. This one's on the players. I think they're going to be put in position to do well, but it's on them. And so I'm looking to them to do their jobs, execute, run the plays that are called the way they're called.
Yeah, to your point, it's all about the players in this game, and we can talk about coaching all we want, but the reality is Rashid Shaheed knows you don't field a punt inside your 10-yard line, much less inside your 5. That is on the player. That is not coaching. That is on the player. He was taught that since he played Pee Wee football.
If there's a punt that's about to land inside the 10, I want to see him sprinting upfield the other way. Just run.
Exactly. So, no, to your point, it is on the players this week. They need to execute, do what they need to do. All of them are in the locker room talking about, I'm tired of being in this situation. Was like, do something about it.
Yeah.
Finish the game. Finish the fucking game. That's it. Simple as that.
Yep.
You got anything else? Any closing thoughts before we sign off?
Nope. Just hope maybe they're due for some bad luck for once, because it seems like everything's fallen their way for quite a bit. officiating at the end of games.
Hope the
everything
Chiefs
else.
are due for some bad
Yeah,
luck. Yeah.
exactly.
We're due for some good luck. If we've watched Atlanta in 3 games this year,
They're on the opposite side of
They're
things.
on the
where,
opposite side,
where,
man.
you
It's
know,
crazy.
The experts and pundits would say, like, yes, this team has a decent record, but, I mean, if you look at this category, they're not really, like, up to snuff in those areas. Their record doesn't indicate a team that should have that record. You know, like, they're on the opposite of us. So let's turn the tables.
it's got to flip-flop.
Do your job.
It usually evens out, so we'll see. Unless you're the Chiefs.
Hopefully
It
it's
usually
this
just
week.
keeps going good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chiefs and
Alrighty.
the officials versus the Saints, Monday Night Football.
There we
So
go.
with that, we're going to go ahead and sign off. We'll be back probably Tuesday
Yeah.
with a recap episode
We're going to get you a recap as soon as we can.
as soon as we can. But until then, who dat?
Who dat?